Struggling during 3 stars at Town Hall 16? Well, these are the best attack strategies you can use in 2026 with the new Dragon Duke hero to 3-star any base. Kicking us off at number 5 is the Royal Champion Charge Dragon Attack, which is still a very popular and strong strategy, especially with the release of the Dragon Duke. We want to mainly start this off by running the Royal Champion Charge. In this case, we are taking advantage of the invisibility spells and the Spirit Fox's invisibility. So you want to use your invisibility spells every 10 seconds in order to make sure that you are not wasting the Spirit Fox's invisibility. You should also try to make sure that you are actively using your invisibility spells to protect both the Royal Champion and the Spirit Fox for as long as possible. This allows your Royal Champion to get plenty of value without needing to use too many invisibility spells early on. You also have the Haste Vial that can be used to quickly move through the core of the base. This is where an Earthquake spell can also fit very well, as it weakens those defenses a little bit slightly and gets your Royal Champion to move through those a little bit quicker. Now, obviously, you will lose your Spirit Fox at some point, so you're going to use your invisibility spells every 4 seconds until you run out, and you'll just let your Royal Champion clear through any remaining buildings before she is taken down. This allows you to then use the giant arrow of the Archer Queen to snipe down any air defenses or sweepers, but also activate any invisibility spell towers within range. This allows you to also use the Siege Barrack to give your Archer Queen more tanking and also more power to clear those buildings on that side. This allows you to use a few dragons on the other side of your funnel, since one side should be set with your Royal Champion Charge, and this allows you to push your way in with your dragons and the Grand Warden. You also have some additional spells like Totem to possibly provide a little bit of tanking for your dragons as you work around, Rocket Loons to control pathing a little bit, but you also have the Dragon Duke on the back end. He is going to be very strong here with the Angry Jelly and his passive ability. So as your dragons are working in with the Eternal Tome, you also have the Dragon Duke with his Stun Blaster, stunning everything in a large radius, allowing a lot less damage to happen and allowing your dragons to very comfortably move around the base and easily 3-star. This is a very strong strategy, and the Duke just makes it even stronger. Moving over to number 4 is the Root Rider Smash, which is still a very strong strategy, especially with the Dragon Duke being able to clear a nice funnel for your Root Riders. Speaking of which, we want to start off with a few rocket balloons to control the pathing of our Dragon Duke, but the Dragon Duke with the Angry Jelly is very powerful. In this situation, we can use him by himself for the most part to clear a large area out of the base, allowing us to control our Root Rider pathing. This allows us to use a poison to deal with the enemy CC, especially if it's a furnace, and using spells like Totem spells and Freeze to stop things that are high DPS, like the Monolith. This allows us to use the Dragon Duke's Stun Blaster in a large area to at least stun defenses and allow him to get a little bit more, and you can even pair his Fireheart Explosion with an Earthquake to clear even more buildings down and allow you to create a really solid funnel. Now, obviously, any trash buildings left over, we can use a Super Barbarian to help clear, but we're going to send in our Root Riders alongside the Barbarian King to set up funneling, mainly for our throwers. So we've got the throwers moving in right behind the Root Riders, as they provide excellent coverage with their long range and high damage under the Rage Gem. Obviously, we have balloons to scout out for traps, the Royal Champion and the Grand Warden to provide support for the healers and for the Root Riders as they work around. An Overgrowth spell should be used in the core to control pathing of the Root Riders as they work around. And obviously, you also have the Revive that you can use on the Dragon Duke towards the back end. So as your troops are moving around the base and as the Overgrowth expires, you have the hero abilities, the Healing Tome and the Rage Gem being used on the Warden, with the Frost Flake allowing you to have excellent coverage and survivability, especially with the Dragon Duke also helping out with his Enraged passive and allowing him to just clearly tank a lot of damage and also dealing out a ton of damage. For the most part, you should be able to very easily clear through a large chunk of the base like it's nothing with the Root Riders and the Dragon Duke, and this is just going to allow you to have a lot more flexibility against a lot of different bases, especially since now the Royal Champion can act more as a supportive tool. Moving on up to number 3 is the Dragon Rider Inferno Dragon strategy, which is still a very powerful option, especially with a back-end Dragon Duke, and the minion prince doesn't necessarily need the Angry Jelly to be all that good. You do mainly want to start off with setting up funneling, so you're going to use the Siege Barrack on one side, typically with a few Inferno Dragons to help the funnel out, while also using the Archer Queen with her giant arrow and action figure to activate any invisibility spell towers, but mainly to snipe down any air defenses or sweepers. This allows you to kind of control pathing and use the rest of your Inferno Dragons, the Dragon Riders, the Minion Prince, and the Warden as they work in. As for your spells, I would heavily just continue to use your totem spells to distract defenses, especially air targeting defenses, as you work around. You should use an Overgrowth to control pathing and minimize damage against something like a Rage Tower, but also you should use the Dark Orb to slow defenses down and use the Eternal Tome and Healing Tome as you work into the core of the base, especially as you're going past the Town Hall and the poison it has. You also have in this situation the Dragon Duke on the back end. So as your Dragon Riders and Inferno Dragons are working around alongside the Minion Prince, you have the Dragon Duke providing value on the back end of the base in order to help out a lot. Its enraged passive is really what makes it shine, and as long as you have the stun ability, you should more often than not be able to clear bases with relative ease with this strategy. Over at number 2, we have the Mass Electro Dragon, which is still one of the best attacks in the game, and mostly because of how strong Electro Dragons are, you do mainly want to start this off by using the Queen with her giant arrow to activate any Invis Towers, but also just to clear out any air defenses and sweepers if you can. Otherwise, on the other side, you're going to use a few Electro Dragons in order to set up a little bit of funneling. You can use rocket balloons to snipe down air defenses, you can use totem spells there as well to protect the Electro Dragons while funneling before you send in the bulk of your Electro Dragons. You want to make sure that you are providing a good funnel for them as they enter the base, where you could use a rage spell to power up their damage and especially their movement speed, while using the Eternal Tome and Healing Tome to protect them as they reach the core. You do want to make sure that you use any other spells like Freeze to minimize damage, the Dark Orb to obviously slow down that damage, and you also have the back end Dragon Duke while the Electro Dragons are working around. So yes, they are going to lose quite a bit of HP as they work towards the back end, but that's why the Dragon Duke comes in with his Stun Blaster, allowing you to protect a lot of those Electro Dragons and do plenty of damage with this passive, and you, for the most part, should be able to easily 3-star bases with Electro Dragons and the back end Dragon Duke, which is why he is just so unbelievably powerful with this attack. And still, one of the best attacks for a Town Hall 16 player to use is the Thrower Smash. This is very powerful, but the main version we're talking about is using the Heroic Torch. This one's going to be a little bit different. Instead of using a Fireball to set up funneling, we're just going to use a Warden Walk. A few furnaces here are great in order to provide a little bit of protection and speeds up the charge quite nicely. The idea here is we want to establish just a small funnel. We want to control where the throwers are going. So this is going to help us out a lot, where we can create a little bit of a funnel on the innermost part of the base. We can lure the Warden over with the throwers, and while everything is working in, we have the Archer Queen to funnel our Barbarian King, who's running the Stick Horse and Giant Gauntlet. Over on the other side, we're using the Dragon Duke. We're basically trying to establish a funnel on 2 different sides, allowing the throwers an easy point through the middle with the Heroic Torch. We've got the Troop Launcher to provide balloons to look for Seeking Air Mines, while having the Giant Gauntlet and Stick Horse of the Barbarian King, and the Stun Blaster alongside the Dragon Duke in order to help clear through some of the buildings and allow safe haven for the actual thrower push. You can also use an Overgrowth in order to minimize damage early on, and as you reach the core of the base, you've got the Heroic Torch ability for your throwers, and this just is absolutely going to crush. You can also just use things like Super Witches or Super Yetis, and they're just as effective. This is the exact same approach that you can take a lot of the smash troops and just easily use them. Even super bowlers can do this method and you'll easily 3-star. For the most part, this is one of the best ways to 3-star, and the heroic torch is slowly becoming one of the better equipment to choose, especially for smash attacks, as they can take full advantage of it, especially with the Dragon Dukes edition. Now, hopefully these attacks help you in gaining more 3-stars throughout CWL and beyond. However, if you like to see what armies the Duke fits in, check this video out, but YouTube says you might prefer this one instead.